buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, baby, live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, how are you? What's going on? How's things going? Welcome to it. It is Hump Day, middle of the week. Getting ready for that downhill slide to Firearms Friday, where we get a chance to do our weekly therapy session and talk about guns. Yeah, guns, lots of guns. Good morning and welcome to you. I tell you what, the second the legislature goes out of session, I always forget. It's like every year I forget how things slow down, like right now. When the legislature goes out of session and it's like there's really not much happening now. We're reporting on possums and weasels and things that it's interesting, but it's okay because it leaves us a little bit of free time to talk about some other things that are important to us. And so I think that today we're going to dive into a couple of the headlines that are going on out there, but then we're going to do a little bit of pontificating. We're gonna talk about the what if factor, and I'm not gonna rant. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I feel about it and why I think it's important and why sometimes I don't talk about it. Because it is, anyway, we're gonna get into that here in just a little bit, and so that's kind of the rundown for today. Don't forget, if you miss anything today, or if you can only join us for a little bit and you want to come back and you feel like you're missing anything, you could pick up everything on the podcast after the fact. The podcast is available each and every day. Simply by going to Castbox, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, et cetera, and just subscribe. And if you subscribe, it'll automatically download it every day as I upload it, which is usually within about 4 or 5 minutes of the show finishing. I've got this down to a science. The show's over, and within 8 minutes, the podcast is loaded. Usually. I mean, sometimes something happens but for the most part, boom, it's ready. It's ready for you. All you got to do is hit the subscribe button on your podcasting app, and boom, it's right there. Make it simple. Make it easy. You could also join us if you're listening on traditional terrestrial radio. All you got to do is go over to Facebook or YouTube or Twitch and join us out there to be part of the chat room as well, which is kind of it's the show within the show, because we got a bunch of folks in there come in and comment, and they help drive the conversation in many ways, and I appreciate each and every one of them who comes in every morning to share their thoughts with us on the big old radio program. So you could find all those links, by the way, over at my website at michaeldukeshow.com. That's simple, easy. It's fantastic. Just go go check it out and be ready to go. All right. What do we got? What do we got going on here? So there's a few headlines that I want to take on, and just because I guess it's interesting to say the least. Some of it has a direct effect on Alaska, some of it doesn't. But I thought it would be an interesting. Interesting points to bring up. So I guess we'll start off over here at the Alaska Beacon. James Brooks over at the Alaska Beacon has an article up talking about Saudi Arabia and the oil production. Now, for those of you who aren't really paying attention to the national news, not that I blame you. I definitely do not blame you for not, keeping strict eyes on the national news, because it's depressing. It's frustrating. It feels like in a lot of ways we got nothing. We can't really affect it or anything else. But there has been some news recently, and of course, part of it is that Saudi Arabia, as part of the OPEC nations, has made a decision in light of what's been going on with oil prices. They tried to control the world oil market price by throttling or increasing their oil production. Right, that's part of the deal. They want to keep the prices high. They don't want it to be glutted on the market, and so they attempt to keep the price as high as they can by either turning on the spigot. Well, usually it's turning off the spigot and reducing the number of barrels. And that gives them a lot more influence and control in the rest of the world as well. And since America has decided to abandon any pretense of trying to be self-sustainable in its energy sector, which is one of the few things that that I really appreciated about Trump, was that he at least was pushing for more of that energy independence. I didn't always agree with the way he did it, but at least it was a priority for him. And now, of course, the current administration has all but abandoned any kind of energy independence for America, even though I think it has deeper ramifications. I mean, it's a national security issue, I think, more than anything else. But I mean, it's a deeper national issue, which is don't normally get into. And I mean, it would be a whole show unto itself trying to talk about the ramifications of energy independence here in the United States. Anyway, Saudi Arabia has decided, in its infinite wisdom, to cut production of oil by about I just lost the number, 1 million barrels a day. That's what it was. So they've decided that they're going to go ahead and cut oil production by 1 million barrels a day. And they've got their finger on the pulse, and they've said now maybe it will be even more at this point. So the U.S. Energy Information Administration raised its estimates for oil prices in the second half of this year and into 2024 as a result of that. They now estimate that Brent crude will average $79.54 per barrel for the rest of this year, and $83.50 per barrel next year, because the diminished supply is going to cause the rise of growth. Now, a barrel of North Slope crude on Monday was just $1 below Brent, because the two are closely related. And so that means that in the future that the average price of Alaskan North Slope oil could be as high as $78 a barrel. Now, Alaska's budget was written on a revenue projection with an average of $73 a barrel over 12 months. And so that means that if we have a, $5 per barrel premium for the end of this year, and then that goes up to almost a $10 premium going into next year, there may be some extra money. Now, this is a blessing and a curse at the same time, because the more fiscal hawks in the listening audience here will go, oh, great. well, we can, put some money away. We can put some money into the CBR. We can, maybe pay down some of the other stuff. We can, there's all. Meanwhile, the Bert Stedmans and the Gary Stevens of the world and many others who are big government folks will see this as an opportunity to again bolster their spending on whatever pet project they want to get done. If the price exceeds the revenue threshold, the due budget does contain what they call a waterfall provision that automatically deposits some of those excess earnings into the CBR, the Constitutional Budget Reserve, which is good because, let's face it, we, the people, the legislature, the state of Alaska, owes the Constitutional Budget Reserve about $10 billion. It is supposed to maintain a certain level, and over the course of the last 10 years, we spent about $15 billion out of it because it was a rainy day account. During those high cotton years of especially of the late aughts, when there was a fiscal crisis, but oil prices skyrocketed to $150 a barrel, we had some real money and we were putting it away at a rapid pace. So we've spent about $14-15 billion out of the Constitutional Budget Reserve. It was getting real close to empty here recently. Now it's got about $2 billion in it, but it's still supposed to have a maintained set baseline limit of about $10 billion. So while the OPEC prices are not necessarily good on your wallet, for those of us who do a lot of driving, gasoline, those that heat our houses with heating oil, you're going to feel that pinch as well as the price of oil goes up. But the state is going to do okay if the price of oil goes. Now, the question is, what are they going to do with the money? And based on the breakdown and the leadership and the way the legislature is set up right now, well, I don't have a whole lot of faith that they are going to do the right thing. And, it's not like we're going to get a full PFD because of it. It's not like there will be some monies that go into the CBR, but the excess earnings could also be set aside for school funding or a BSA increase. It could even be even set aside for the 2024 permanent fund. It could. I'm trying to be glass half full kind of guy. It could happen. But as usual, by the way, these oil forecasts are just kind of notoriously erratic. They're all over the place. And we'll see what happens as we go forward. By the way, the windfall provision, the waterfall provision, is not even a certainty because Governor Dunleavy has yet to sign this year's budget into law. And he has the ability to veto that section of the budget, potentially deleting the section entirely, which would leave the excess earnings on the table for future debate by legislators. So he could see it as a way to say, instead of just going straight into the CBR, he could instead veto that provision, and then it would be there, and he could say, I want this to be spent on dividends. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to happen, but he could. I'm trying to decide which way I'd like that to go. I'm not quite sure. So we'll see anyway. But that's some big news that probably things you weren't paying attention to, or maybe you were and hadn't thought about the ramifications yet. But I found it to be a very interesting article from James Brooks over at the Alaska Beacon. That's right. So. Coming up next, if you like your stove, you can keep your stove. Oh, that's what I was told at the beginning. What's that all about? Well, Mary Peltola may have something to say about that. Plus, we got What If Wednesday and more coming up, and a report on the Alaskan economy, which is now ranking it, the third worst in the country. Oof. I mean, ow. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Well, hello. How you guys doing this morning? Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Man, I just I haven't decided yet. My eyes were just like this morning, so I didn't turn on the light, and then wow, now I turned on the light. I can't decide whether or not I can. I mean, can you guys live without the light this morning? Just because, damn my eyes. Damn my eyes. Damn my eyes. Damn your eyes. You know what I mean. All right. Let me go over here. So, big ups. Frank sent me a What If Wednesdays theme song. I Can Survive the Unofficial Prepper Song single. Interesting. I would like to garnish politicians' wages for theft from the PFD from individual citizens. I mean, yeah, I would love that as well. So who blew the dam in the Ukraine? I don't know. The Ukrainians and I don't know. The system of theft is entrenched. Extra money, says Bill. Ha! It's already spent. I mean, that's exactly it. I don't really expect my PFD to go up with it. No, I agree, David. I mean, I think it's interesting, but I don't have any expectations that this group of critters down there is going to do anything else. All right. Good morning. Just more money, says Chris over on Twitch. Just more money for the legislature to loot. Mm-hmm. Hoffman is already talking about forward spending. It's just excess crazy money. Dunleavy abandoned his PFD promises long ago. Between Mary and Lisa, not sure who is worse. That's a fair thing. Good morning. Did you get your sign mounted? No, I didn't yet. It's sitting inside my doorway because I don't want it to get stolen. But Greg was kind enough to give me, I'll have to take a picture of it and put it on Facebook because he was kind enough to give me a picture or a sign to hang outside my door. Warning of dynamic entry. Dynamic entry will be met with overwhelming force because I don't know who you are. So it's good. Limited out and Seward in less than an hour, says Harold. Good for you, my friend. Good for you. Sometimes that's anticlimactic when you do it in less than an hour. You get all this prep, you do it you spend hours on the road, you get down there, you do it, and it's over in an hour. Although then you can go and do other things, but I'm definitely with you on that. Any guests today? No, today we're going to be talking about some of the headlines, and then we're going into a what if segment, Harold. You will probably hate it. So be prepared to hate, Harold, is what I'm saying. Just be prepared. Because I've been promising and talking about this for a few Wednesdays, and then I kept interrupting with guests. And so now, today, we're going to go over a little bit of that, and we're just going to talk about all that. So, I knew it was quiet yesterday for a reason. Okay. We are ready to jump back into it. Please like and share the show, like and follow the show page, do all the YouTube-y things out there. I got the phone lines open, which we're going to talk about here in a second as well. And there you go. That's the reminder to myself to stop the yapping. Stop the yapping. He doesn't hate. He just likes to stir it up. Well, that's true. Some people just want to watch the world burn, right? That's just the way that goes. All right, let's get to it. Here we go. Common Sense Radio. Well, welcome back. Hello, you. How you doing? Welcome to Wednesday, hump day, middle of the week. So a couple more stories before I jump into our what if discussions. First and foremost, if you like your stove, you can keep your stove. I guess unless you live in New York or Berkeley, California, or many of the other more progressive enclaves around the United States, where everybody is now trying to outlaw gas stoves. I mean, I thought when I first saw this, I got to be honest, when I first saw this little quote come up, and this has been going on for weeks now, right? I mean, I think this first came out about 3 or 4 months ago, and I swear to you, I thought it was an article from The Onion or the Babylon Bee. You know, one of those tongue-in-cheek satirical news sites. I literally thought it was a joke. Oh, we can't, these stoves, they trigger asthma and they can create ADHD in kids, and they make the bees die and dogs and cats start living together. And I mean, all this other kind of stuff. And I'm just like, what? And all of a sudden it became the cause du jour. And it was real. I mean, again, I swear I thought it was a satirical article, but no, they went in whole hog. We're going to outlaw gas stoves across, wherever. And so they did it in New York State or New York City. Now they've instituted a new piece of legislation that essentially says that any new construction can't have a gas stove installed. It's got to be an electric stove. And of course, all the amateur and professional cooks out there are weeping because any good chef knows that you need to be able to control the heat like right now. And cooking on an electric stove is nowhere near the same as cooking on a gas stove. Besides the fact that gas is cheaper, more efficient, yada, 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 everything else. Then Berkeley, California took over, did the same thing. And like I said, we're seeing these little progressive enclaves going all over the place. And it's not just gas-fueled stoves. It's furnaces and water heaters and all of this. This is all to combat climate change. Now, remember, I have said this many times before that it was like in Fairbanks when they were talking about, well, we need to eliminate the wood stoves and then our air quality will be better. But then I was like, but your furnaces are also putting up particulate matter and everything else. So after they get done with the wood stoves, are they going to come for the furnaces as well? And here you are. I mean, apparently what we're supposed to do is just live in caves and cook with the power of the sun. We're just supposed to dry all the food outside in the sun. That is the climate. That is the conscientious, responsible way to protect the climate is just lay all your food out in the sun on rocks and let it dry and then eat it as jerky. That apparently is it. Well, there were a pair of bills that got put together in the House of Representatives, and it failed yesterday. Mary Peltola voted against it. Now, it didn't fail because of Peltola, but because the Freedom Caucus is still pissed off at Kevin McCarthy over the debt ceiling bill, and they didn't want to give him a win on anything, so they flexed their muscles and they stopped the vote. But the fact that Mary Peltola would basically vote again, it doesn't make any sense. The bill would have prevented future restrictions and energy conservation standards on these appliances. Again, it would counteract the increasing number of states and local governments that would impose bans on gas-fueled stoves, furnaces, and water heaters. Now, proponents like myself argue that 1/3 of American households rely on gas stoves for cooking, like me. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's the first time I ever had a gas stove when I moved down here, and I love it. I mean, I'm not an amateur chef, but I like to cook occasionally, and I got to tell you, man, it's so much nicer to cook on a gas stove. And by the way, when it got a little chilly after the 2018 earthquake, and it got a little chilly around here, and there was another time we had a huge power outage that was out for hours. My gas still worked. Guess what? Kept the whole lower half of the house warm with cracking the oven and firing it up and getting that gas on. Couldn't have done that with electricity. Anyway, Democrats and others emphasize the importance of reducing carbon emissions resulting from the combustion of fossil fuels, including natural gas. But here's the problem. The problem is that, I mean, again, we burn. How do you think those electric stoves get their electricity? Right? I mean, nobody has really logically thought this all the way through. Well, we need to take away the stoves because they hurt the children and the butterflies, and it's making it's climate change. We need to do that. So everybody should just get an electric stove. Well, wait, aren't we already experiencing a energy shortage, and don't we already have the potential for rolling blackouts and everything else? Well, yes, but and now you want electric cars on top of that? Well, of course we do. But wait, you want to plug all, and then you've got an already overstressed electric grid, and where do you think the electricity comes from? Do you think that doesn't generate some kind of it's I mean, it's just no logical common sense on any of this. But I mean, this again I just don't even know why Peltola. Well, I mean, she's voting in lockstep with the Democrats. So I guess that's, I just this whole thing is just the Gas Stove Protection and Freedom Act. If you ever told me that you thought that there would be a bill in the United States Congress that was entitled the Gas Stove Protection and Freedom Act, or the Save Our Stoves Act. We're doomed as a society, man, at this point. Doomed. Well, you can't have gas stove. I mean, and forget about wood burning. My God, you might as well be burning puppies instead of wood, because that's even worse for the environment. But don't worry, that ultra clean electricity that comes from some plant somewhere that we don't even. This is like the same type of people who are like, don't kill animals. Go to the store like a regular person and just get your meat there. Well, where do you think that meat comes from? Well, from the little pink trays in the thing, and you don't have to kill an animal to get your meat. Do you not even? No, I'm not even going to engage in that. I'm sorry. But that's the way a lot of people think. A lot of people. And then one of my listeners sent me this. Yes, thank you, Harold. Report from the Center Square. It is a new report from the Wallet Hub. Wallet Hub is they do a lot of studies around the country, and mostly for consumption by media outlets and things like that. We've done a couple shows on several of the Wallet Hub reports over the last few years. But according to this report, Alaska has the third worst economy in the United States. We ranked 49th, only outranking Louisiana, and here's West Virginia. The three key factors analyzed the state for economic activity. We were the last one. We were at the bottom of the pack for economic activity. We were 44th in economic health and 41st for innovation potential. I mean, so that's at least good. Alaska is also among the states with the lowest state government surplus per capita, meaning that's the oof. Alaska's not seasonally adjusted employment rate was 3.9%. That's above the national unemployment rate of 3.4%. The report also looked at the share of jobs in high-tech industries. The percentage of do we even have high-tech industries here in the state of Alaska? I mean, I'm sure there's a few, but mostly no. The percentage of jobs considered STEM employment, independent inventor patents per 1,000 working age population, and entrepreneurial activities. Alaska was among the three states with the fewest independent inventor patents as well. States with the best economies, Washington, Utah, Massachusetts, Colorado, and California. So because they've included California in this mix, I do have to question the methodology slightly because, California and the taxes and the fact that people are exiting that state at a rapid rate. But it's an interesting article and it's an interesting report. Again, you can find it over at Wallet Hub. I'll drop a link in the chat room so you guys can talk about that. See what you have to say about that as well. But it's not good. It's not good news overall for the state. And again, just more proof that because the public and the private economies are disconnected because of the way that the state draws revenue, there is really no interest in, again, bolstering or protecting the private economy. As long as the public economy, the government economy is protected, all's well in Mudville, right? I mean, that is the mantra we're seeing right now from all these different people. Is as long as their piece of the pie, the government pie, is taken care of, we're okay. And that's not necessarily the case. I mean, remember, right before the pandemic, we were still trying to come out of a recession. And the pandemic didn't do us any favors. And here we are right now with I mean, I don't even know technically if we came out of the recession overall because of the influence of the pandemic and everything. But, I will say things are not back to normal yet. I mean, I don't know about your industry, but I'm talking to people out there in the world, business owners and things like that, and advertising and the radio and all that. And things are not, for most people, are not back to pre-pandemic numbers yet. And that was already the beginning of a recession or the end of a recession. So if we haven't even gotten back to those numbers yet in some ways, yeah, I could see as how Alaska's economy could be ranked as the third worst in the nation. Disappointing. But that raises some other questions and takes us over to our what if discussion, which is coming up next. Yeah, we're going to jump into that here. Talk more about that. And I will give you a little bit of a preview in the next segment. My thoughts on it and why I have decided to bring it back as a segment and talk about it, especially in the slower news times as the legislature is out doing their thing. But we'll continue. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Special thanks to our friends at Satellite West for sponsoring the program. You can find them over at satellitewest.com from Delta Junction to Diomede. from Nanilchik to Naknek, from, I don't know, Seward to Selawik. Anywhere in the state of Alaska, Satellite West has got you covered for communications needs, cell phones, text messages, internet. You got it. Talk to them. SatelliteWest.com. Back with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, what do we got here? Let's go back up here. See what you guys have been talking about. Okay. My friends gave my friend. Sorry, that's just perfect right there. I mean, yeah. That's how radical the ones in charge are. We have very few people that will stand up, and the ones that do are not supported enough to change it, says Richard. Yeah. The Ninth Circuit did overturn that, right? The Berserkly stove ban. People are quietly leaving the state. The dark money behind the gas bans. Brian, would you link me that article, the Substack article from Robert Bryce? I'll have to read that when you get a chance. Don't you have a wood stove back up down there? Don't you have a wood stove backup down there? Oh, don't you have a wood stove backup, down there? No, I don't. I don't have a wood stove. I don't have a wood stove in the house that I'm in because I'm leasing the house. So I didn't put a stove in. If I had my own, I would have put a stove in, but I don't. So it is what it is. New York City carved out an exception for restaurants where New Yorkers all get their food. Virtue signaling. I mean, that's the thing. We can't let those restaurants. We got the best restaurants in the world. We can't force all of them to cook on electric, but you peasants, you need to. Oh, and now you can't even, it's not like people could burn wood to get your, and the government can control your electricity usage through smart meters. Well, they could do the same thing to your gas, Jim. Let's not kid ourselves. Anything that's electronically metered these days potentially could be, that's the thing. All right. What happens when the MEA plant that depends on natural gas to operate? What will you have to do? I mean, that's the thing. Do you go back to coal? Is it all solar? Is it all, we just protect the environment and we don't know what to do. Oh, man. Let's see. Meanwhile, our fish are gone because of the trawler industry. Here's some funny for everybody. New York City's in a panic about what to do about smoke from fires affecting their air. Well, we deal with that every year, says Lisa. Yeah, I mean, that's right there. Wind, solar, and microgrids is what we're supposed to be expecting now. That's how we take care of everything. Micronuclear, if you ask me, I would agree with that. I think micronuclear batteries is the thing. Donna Arduin says Alaska's GDP growth is the worst in the nation. Dead last. Yup. I have so what happens when you're okay. All right, there we go. Hope you have a generator for backup during an ice or windstorm. Well, I do. There you go. Just eat bugs, says Hawk. This is the answer. Just eat bugs. Well, like I said, you can get all your food. You just have to put it outside on a flat rock and dry it all in the sun. That is the responsible way to cook your meals. That's it right there. The responsible way to cook your food. Oh, hey, I got a call on hold. I just realized that. Let me go over there and see who's there, shall we? We'll get their name and who they're calling, where they're calling from, and we'll get them ready to return to the radio. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Hello, caller.
Oh, my goodness. Am I on the phone, Michael? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Who is this? Where are you calling from?
Well, my name is Greg, and I'm from Fairbanks, and
Okay, well, hold on, Greg. You're getting an echo
I have
because
a terrible...
no, you have an echo because I'm not ready to take you on the air yet. I'm 60 seconds from going back on air, so I'm going to put you back on hold.
Okay.
You have an echo because I haven't fixed that yet because I want to talk to you as soon as we come back. So we'll take your phone call here when we come back. Don't go anywhere, and you can tell us all about it, Greg, and we'll be ready. We'll be ready to go. Ready to go. All right. Okay. If you want to call in, you can feel free to do so. Feel free to do so.
Unmuted.
907-433-3150. Let's get to it. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like and share, like and follow, do all the stuff everywhere. And share the show. It doesn't matter which platform you're on. Share the show, will you? That'd be great. All right, here we go. Let's do it.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Enemy. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Dukes Show.
Pain in the what? You are so fired, mister. So fired. I did write enemy, not the other thing. All right, welcome back to the program. Thanks for coming in and joining us. It is hump day. Somebody was like, I'm going to ban that phrase because it's just, I don't know why. But, it's because people don't like fun. They do not like fun. I don't understand it. I can't identify with it. I like it. It's hump day because it's the middle of the week, right? So you start up the hill till hump day and then you're over the hump down till Friday. That's what it's about. Man, people with your filthy minds. All right, let's continue ahead. I want to talk a little bit and get things set up for the next hour where we're going to do a full hour of what if. What do you mean, what if, Mike? Well, I'll tell you here in just a second. But first, Greg is on the line. He's up in Squarebanks doing his thing up in the interior, and he had things to say. He's got stuff on his mind. He's got a bone to pick with me. I don't know if he does or not, but let's find out. Good morning, Greg. What's on your mind?
Well, good morning, Mike. Greg in Fairbanks here. I don't have a bone to pick with you. When we were in MAME together in Fairbanks, we worked very good as theater people. I don't know if you remember, but it's nice talking to you.
Yeah, no, hey, Greg, it's good. I did get your email. I did get your email, by the way, and I will respond to that. I'm sorry I saw that yesterday, but I got waylaid and I couldn't respond. So I'm more than happy to help you. But with your conundrum there. So we'll talk about that off air. But what else is on your mind, Greg?
Well, that was just it. It's a family issue that I knew you could help me with. So I got nothing else really to say except I've got gas bottles stored here for when I need some extra power. I got bottles stacked up here. Boy, I'd hate to have them come take my bottles of gas.
Is that the question? I mean, is
so
it,
silly.
from my cold dead hands, you can have my propane cylinder, kind of thing. I mean, is that what it's going to come down to? I mean, here in Alaska, I don't think it would ever happen, but you watch these enclaves across the country of progressivism doing this and then Donna said in the chat room during the break that New York City, I didn't realize this, they carved out an exemption after saying nobody can have a gas stove or furnace or anything else. They went ahead and had a carve out for the restaurants because that's where New Yorkers get all their food. So it's more virtue signaling, Greg. It's just frustrating. I mean, what'll they take next? I mean, again, should we be running around in loincloths, basking in the sun and burying our food so that it ferments to be able to preserve it because we can't have refrigerant for refrigerators or gas to cook with or anything else? It's kind of insane.
Yeah, by God, I'll tell you, I think about bumper stickers sometimes, and of course, you helped me think of this, and it's common sense, the lost art.
Yeah, common sense. It's amazing
There
they call
just
it
is no
common. It's so
common sense.
rare, right? I mean, it's amazing they call it common. It's so rare. That's 100% true. All right, Greg. Well, thank you for your call. I appreciate you sounding off this morning. It's good to hear from you, my friend, and we will talk to you. I'll talk to you soon. I'll send you an email to reply to that. Thanks for calling in. Yeah, Greg and I were back. That was back when I was doing theater. With Fairbanks Light Opera Theater, and Greg and I were in Mame. Anyway, let's continue on here. Wow, that's a blast from the past. That's been a few years. Well, I wanted to set up another call, but I wanted to set up my thing. But anyway, I got another call. Let's take the call. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Ron in North Pole. And
Hello.
just a thought about the gas.
Okay.
One of the benefits of having summer come is being able to go out in my RV, and when breakfast comes, I have instant eggs.
Instant. Now, wait a second. Do you have instant eggs because you've got powdered eggs, or you have instant eggs because you've got gas in your RV? I'm just asking.
My mistake. Just simply the fact of turning the propane-fired stove in the RV on gives me instant heat.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing worse than waiting for the burner to heat up so that you can heat up the pan, so then you can cook the eggs, and then you got to take it off the thing because it's not working. I got to tell you, I had never had gas stove until I got down here, whatever it was, 9 years ago to Wasilla, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is especially eggs. I like to cook different kinds of eggs, and to cook eggs on a gas stove is, oh man, it is the height of beauty. And the idea that somehow me using gas stoves may have hurt somebody or something. And I'm thinking, man, what about the wood? What about the coal? What about everything that creates that electricity? I mean, somebody's burning natural gas down here. MEA uses natural gas to create electricity. So what's the difference? Now, they're obviously not asking us to cut it off here in Alaska, but I mean, what do most of those states use to generate power? Some hydro, great. Hydro's great. But what about fuel oil, or what about natural gas, or what about anything else? It's still producing pollutants. I mean, if that's the case, it makes no sense. This whole argument, like I said, I thought it was a satire piece when I first read it.
Kind of like the coal-fired electric car.
Yeah, exactly. Or the car that runs on wood gas, right? I mean, the car that runs on wood gas, it's clean burning, but I mean, it's, I got half a quart of wood behind me as I keep going, so it'll be fine. It's great. All right, Ron.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Hey, have a great day, Michael.
I appreciate it. Thank you for sounding off. Okay, well, let's get set up for hour two. Hour two is going to be a little segment that we really haven't done in quite a while. I mean, we've touched on it a couple times here, but when I was on the air in Fairbanks, in the evening drive there on Fairbanks for many, many years, there were several years there that I would do a semi-regular segment on Wednesdays that we would call What If Wednesdays. And by what if, I meant, are you prepared for anything? Are you ready for anything? And that could be, natural disaster, earthquake, flood, fire, thunderstorm, lightning, a blizzard, or any other kind of fill in the blank apocalyptic event. I mean, from global thermonuclear war to the zombie apocalypse, right? Or, a global pandemic. That would never happen here, right? And that was kind of the discussion. And the question was, we have become so inured to, we've got the easy life here, folks. And do I appreciate that in so many ways. We've got the easy life in so many ways. You flick a switch on, you get lights. You turn a knob, you get heat, or flame for cooking. You got flush toilets. You got all these modern conveniences. You can take your spouse out to dinner, at the drop of a hat. You can drive 120 miles round trip to your job and not have to worry about it. We have got so many good things, but the question, the big thing about this is that you have these simple, complex systems, right? And these simple, complex systems have the ability to provide us with a lot of great things, but they are inherently prone to what they call the cascade failure, right? One thing begets something else. Now, we saw a bit of that during the pandemic, where the supply chain started to break down and there was an issue, and all of a sudden the shelves in the stores were looking a little bit bare and some other things. And so that's where this whole thing kind of generated out of. Now, I have been reticent to restart this for a variety of reasons, but most importantly, because, not most importantly, but primarily because there is such a stigma to talking about this stuff. There really is. I mean, this is who I am. This is who I was born and raised, again, third generation Alaskan. My grandmother was born, in a log cabin up north of Fairbanks. We had a whole lifestyle that, basically was built around this idea of, we didn't even call it preparedness. We just called it living, right? But later on, it got a little bit stigmatized. And whether that was from Y2K or the late 80s kind of survivalist movement or whatever, there is a bit of a stigma on it. So I want to talk about that as well. And maybe we just go full on crazy talk just to show you what I'm discussing. Anyway, well, we got the whole next hour to talk about it, right? And we got the phone lines open at 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more right after this. Hour 2, dead ahead. Okay. All right. What do we got here? I'm going back here to see what you guys are talking about. There's a video of a helicopter starting fires in Canada, dropping something. What ignites when it meets air? White phosphorus. What ignites when it meets air? White phosphorus does. Also, fuel bombs, air fuel bombs do that. Actually, grasshoppers sauteed in butter and lime juice with a sprinkle of salt are the perfect taco topper. I'll take your word for it. We're all zombified. Let's see. My teachers does a. I'm sorry. My teachers does a live. Oh, he does a. I'm sorry, Denise. This is sometimes autocorrect is hard. I think she's saying that somebody does a live outside your comfort zone lesson. He offers food not usually eaten. Grasshoppers is one of them. Once we bought 32 scorpion lollipops. There you go. There you go. Terry says, oh Lord, no loincloths. You do not want to see me in a loincloth. That's me too. You do not want to see me in a loincloth. But toga, yeah, I could rock a toga or a kilt. I'm all about that. No, I'm about that. Fun fact, says Anthony, you can hard-boiled eggs in your smoker. Yummy hard-boiled eggs. Does the smoke penetrate through the shell? Does it come out like smoked eggs? I'm just curious because that sounds delicious. That sounds absolutely delicious. I would love to have some smoked eggs. That would be good. And Hawk, you're not wrong. Fred Flintstone car is coming soon. I mean, because oh man. Incredibly vulnerable supply systems, energy and supply chain, says Jeannie. Yeah, I mean, we're actually in a bad situation for the supply chain, but we're not bad for the energy chain, which is interesting in the state of Alaska, and we can talk about that as well. The lower 48 is screwed. I truly believe there are going to be more attacks on our infrastructure, mainly our food. Alaska must be prepared. Well, yeah. Okay. If you want to learn about electrical grids and what happens during grid collapses, Practical Engineering on the YouTubular is great. Watch the Black Start video if you want to better understand the limitations of renewables and microgrids. Anthony, by the way, says, yes, those eggs are smoked. Oh, man, yummy. With the Flintstone cars, do the tires or the feet get studded? I would say the feet get studded because, we're into body modification around here. I got a little piercing. Got piercings on my feet. They're studs, man. Now I can go anywhere. After the 2 years it took me to heal from having them installed. Kilts are fine, says Timothy. I agree. Skip the loincloth. Okay. I'm caught up on the comments. Oh, baby. You guys ready? Just getting into the zone. Getting into the zone. Okay. Thank you, Brian, for dropping that link, by the way, to me on the Money Behind the Gas Ban. Thank you. I will go read that and take a look at it, and we'll get into that a little. We'll get into that a little more fully later on. I'll do some reading on that in the meanwhile. Okay. I making sure I got all my pieces and parts here together. Look at that. I actually taught a long-term food storage class here. And we will talk about it. Okay, I got it all here. I got it in front of me. You guys all ready to do this? Okay. The mosquitoes are bad. I mean, come on. You guys are obviously not from Fairbanks. I have never seen a bad year of mosquitoes since I moved down here. I mean, there have been a few mosquitoes, but where I lived back in the woods in North Pole, man, you guys ain't seen mosquitoes till you get back in there. Oh, yeah. All right. We got a line on hold. Maybe. All right. Let me find out who it is. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Barbara calling from North Pole.
Hey, Barbara, hold the line. I'll be right back to you. We're coming up into it. All right, don't go anywhere. All right, hour 2 is dead ahead. The Michael Duke Show. Little bit of What If Wednesday. I'm going to tell you how I feel about that, and then we're going to start talking about a few things, and we're going to take some input from you on what the topic should be for that. Yeah? Back with more. Hour 2 kicks off right now. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on that thing we call the internet, and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. It is the Michael Dukes Show. Hello, good morning to you. How you doing? Are you ready? You ready for hour two? We're going to dive into this and start talking about what if Wednesday. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be all about, and we're gonna talk about some stuff and get into it. And I want to get going, but first, I do have some phone calls, and I did say the phone lines were open, so I have to do it. I have to deliver on my promise. Barbara's up in Fairbanks. She wanted to say some things to begin with, so let's get over to her first and see what she has to say. Good morning, Barbara. What's on your mind?
Good morning. Well, I just was listening to the last hour and the discussion about natural gas and coal and all that wonderful stuff. And tomorrow night, the Borough Assembly is going to be voting on the Climate Action Plan. And, there's a lot of people that haven't read that, and I encourage you to go read it. I tried my best to get some things modified in there, but when you do a paper by committee, you often get voted down, and I got voted down a lot. But there's a lot of things in there about banning natural gas, transitioning away from natural gas, transitioning away from coal, investing heavily in solar and wind and a lot of other things. And there's a lot of things about encouraging people to use non-motorized travel, which I consider to be bikes and cars, bikes and walking.
Wait a minute. We want to discourage and eliminate natural gas. We want to eliminate coal. Didn't we just spend millions of dollars? I mean, I'm a property owner in the borough, Fairbanks North Star Borough. Didn't we just spend millions of dollars building out natural gas infrastructure because it is the solution to the pollution, is the natural gas? And now they want to eliminate natural gas and coal? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, not only that, but during the time this committee was meeting, we approved a trucking proposal by IGU to truck natural gas from the slope to the borough. It's crazy. It's the craziest thing ever. So what I'm hoping your listeners will, what if nobody showed up to say no on this? Please, if you want to get into What If Wednesday, what if you sit back and do nothing? If you can't make it Thursday night, I get it. It's really difficult to get in to testify. But I don't want to say climate crazy, but every one, I'm not against solar. I love solar. The problem with solar is that we have these months called November, December, January, February, March, and you get a little bit of solar, but you'll freeze to death if that's your sole source of power. You need something else.
Yeah, I love solar. I love solar. Yeah. I love wind too, except for the wind doesn't always blow. I mean, just ask Mike Kraft out at Healy, how consistent the wind can be. I mean, it's supplemental. It's not a plan. I mean, solar in Alaska, especially the interior, where it's dark for like 4 months. I mean, that's not a plan. I mean, that's not a plan.
Well, let me tell you what solar's good for. You get good solar power just about the time the thaw comes and you need to kick on your freezer. So I think putting a solar panel on your freezer is a really good thing because you get great sun in the summer when you need your freezer to work. And then, you kind of lose the oomph right about the time the freeze comes. So, if you're going to use solar power, it's great for your freezer. It's great for a security system. But, really, this thing needs to be either voted down or set back.
All right, Barbara. When is it being? Is it tomorrow? Is that tomorrow?
And you can email assembly, ASSEMBLY, at fnsp.gov and express your sentiments about this plan. Read it, okay? Like I said, you can tell where I was able to get some things changed. I had a good friend who wasn't even aware that I was on this committee. And kudos to Aaron Lojeski for, making the changes in the committee and putting me on. But I still wasn't able to get all the things changed that I wanted to get changed.
All right. Tomorrow night, Fairbanks.
At the same time, you can't hang on to a project forever.
Yep. Tomorrow night, Fairbanks North Star Borough Assembly. Go out there, testify against this madness. Barbara, thank you for bringing it up to our attention. I appreciate it. That's insane. Like I said earlier, once they eliminated the wood stoves, then they were coming after the furnaces, and they were going to force you onto natural gas, right? Because that's why they built all the infrastructure out. And then now they want to eliminate the natural gas. They haven't even got everybody converted over, and they want to eliminate the natural gas. This makes no sense whatsoever. You guys are killing me. I want to get over to this what if stuff, but I got more phone calls. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. It's James in Fairbanks.
Morning, James.
What if there were no grocery stores? What if all the food supplies are gone? What are people going to do? I suggest they go buy a couple. Oh my God. I'm going to go buy a book or two. The Lost Book of Herbal Remedies and the Book of Lost Ways.
The Lost
Those are the two books.
Okay.
Everybody needs to.
That's the Lost Book of Herbal Remedies and the Lost Book of Ways. And I'm sure those are books that tell you, capture some of the old knowledge, which most people don't seem to have anymore as to how to take care of yourself, I'm assuming.
Exactly. I was reading through Lost Book of Herbal Remedies out in the backyard and realized that I have more pharmacopoeia in the backyard than anybody should really have to heal almost everything.
Oh, don't say that you have pharmacopoeia in the backyard because, the DEA may show up at your. No, I get it. There's lots of herbal
they
remedies.
can come and take all the dandelions they want.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, look, I've got a couple books like that, and I've got one that's also a book. Maybe that's something that we should talk about. What are some of the best books for, understanding and keeping some of that knowledge? Because there's another book that I have called Where There Is No Doctor. And there's an ancillary to that, Where There Is No Dentist. And they are both fantastic reads for people who have little to no medical experience. But if you find yourself in a remote or a situation where there is no doctor, they could be invaluable.
Well, and that's what the Book of Lost Ways is about. It's, putting up food, how to store it without refrigeration, how to build things that you need in your life. And the Lost Book of Herbal Remedies is exactly that. And almost everything in the Herbal Remedies book grows in Alaska.
Right. Well, I got to tell you that you're right. That's the kind of information we need. And quite honestly, like I said, we have a very easy life today. We're a very pampered society, and we've lost a lot of that institutional knowledge. Some people still have it, but unless you've got a book that lines it out, how are you going to know? How are you going to know how to take care of yourself in many of those situations? And people say, "Oh, well,
Those are my
I'm sorry.
yeah. Those are my 2 suggestions on what to have in your survival pack.
All right, and again, give me the titles one more time, and I'll just so folks can hear them one more time.
It's the Book of Lost Ways and the Lost Book. It's the Book of Lost Herbs and Remedies. Let me see the author. Hold on just a second. That is, oh goodness.
Well, you could send me
Lost Book of Herbal Remedies.
There you go. You can send me you could send me the artist or the author's name if you'd like, and maybe we'll get them on the program for a what if. How about that?
That would be really good.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate you sounding off.
Thank you much.
Thank you. I appreciate you calling in. One more phone call. And then seriously, we'll really get into this. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Michael, it's Bull up here in Fairbanks. How you doing?
Hello, my friend. What's on your mind?
I wanted to call in. The rudimentary thing, what if things go sideways, the first thing people are going to have to do is trade and barter is the way it's going to happen, right?
Sure. I would agree with that.
All right. Well, this has already been done. You familiar with Backwoods Homes?
I am familiar with Backwoods Homes. It's
a magazine.
Yep, it's a series of magazines that basically deals with not primitive living, but survival style living.
Yeah. The magazine's irrelevant, except they did this for years till they quit printing their magazine in print.
Right.
Taxation theft. You agree?
I agree.
Okay. The very simple. If you take a 1960 quarter and go to Walmart, will they take it for currency?
Absolutely.
That's right, because it's never been made illegal to use for currency. We both know. Do you know what the multiplier is for junk silver?
It's 90%. 90% junk silver is generally speaking between 85 and 90% pure silver.
It's 90%. The multiplier, if you want to find out what $1's worth of junk silver is worth, you take the spot price of silver times 7.14, and that gives you the spot price of silver. If you said we're going to do, the numbers aren't going to match. They're not going to be right. I can't sit here and do the math. Don't have the time. If you're selling your coffee, say a bag of your coffee costs you $5. You're selling your coffee to people for $5. You have to, or for $10, you have to pay tax on the other $5. If you sell that in junk silver, let's say you decide these numbers aren't going to work, but let's say you decide, because I'm sure you save money for retirement, if you're going to sell that coffee for $5, let's say you decide that that's worth $1.50 in junk silver. When you sell that to a customer, they mail you $1.50 in junk silver. You have lost $3.50 on that transaction. And that with the IRS is 100% legal. The only thing you have to do to keep it legal is if you have to sell some of that silver to restock, you must show it in your ledger that you turned, let's say, $50 of junk silver into $400 of cash. And you are 100% above board with the IRS. You can beat the tax system and get the trades, the barter system on junk silver going.
Okay.
It was done by them, and I've been in one county in the southeast of the lower where they're doing it. I talked to Ryan, whose wife owned, the gold place up here at Fairbanks. I'm having a brain fart.
Okay.
And I wouldn't tell. I just told him it was one of the Carolinas, which was true. He found another county, but it wasn't the one I was talking about. So there's several counties that are doing it. And when I was there, I noticed that an old acquaintance of mine was taking me around. And when we got in the hardware store to pick some things up, I noticed a sign behind the counter, behind the register, said, "We accept real money." That's all it said. We got to the bar for some beverages, same thing. Nothing else was said. And everybody was paying for everything in silver. And they were playing the game in the whole county. So I just wanted to put it out there. If you want to know any more, you can get a hold of me, whatever. But it'd be a real good push to put on, and it's completely legal.
Yeah. All right, Bull. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for the heads up on that. I think junk silver is a good resource to have available to you if you need it. Not only can you spend it like real money, but proportionally, if you ever needed to carve it up or do anything else, you can also use it for just regular silver. Just junk it up. Like you said, it's 90% anyway. So, all right. Well, thank you, Bull. I appreciate it. Okay. For reals. I'm not going to take any more phone calls for a minute here because I want to get to what I wanted to get to. What if there was a global pandemic that affected the supply chain? What if there was a earthquake that destroyed the port, or here, or maybe on the West Coast? Earthquakes, flood, locusts, zombie apocalypse. I don't know. What could it be? What would you do? Would you be able to make it? That's the question. What if it happens? Back with more. The Michael Duke Show.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Ooh, man, we got off into the pucker brush there, didn't we? Okay. All right. Let's see. What if I get up and got some Folgers in my cup? Well, then you would have an inferior coffee mix in your vessel. It's coffee-like, but it is what it is. All right. Let's see. I'm scrolling backwards here to see what you guys have been saying. Now I want smoked eggs. That's all I'm saying. Now I want smoked eggs. That would be okay. The copper is still shut down. Okay, fact. The copper is still shut down for dipping. No boats above the bridge. Even if it opens, no kings taken. Their fish wheels are overflowing. 150, 15 kings, 3 days. Try this, be sued. Okay, all right. That's it. So when I had to suddenly retire a few years ago due to an injury, my food storage, which included non-food items, saved me. My home was paid off and I had no car payment as well, so I could live on very little. It's not about preparing for the apocalypse, but for life events which happen to us all. Thank you, Sherry. That is very, very well said. Okay. Wait, is this a ploy to get dandelions out of your yard? Oh, man. Okay. Denise says, thank God for my dad. He left me overnight in the woods. I found out years later he wasn't far away. That one night taught me so much. Number 1, calm down, don't panic. Number 2, what's the plan? Number 3, crying did nothing to keep me alive. Yeah, I'm with you. Okay. Yeah, I have seen talking about the Book of Lost Ways. There's an old guy that does ads for that on YouTube. I've actually seen the video. I've seen some of the videos that he does, and his beard is magnificent. I will say, his beard is magnificent. I don't know if I could live with a beard that was like down onto my chest and stuff like that, but anyway, he's good. Okay. Harold doesn't want to carry junk silver. He said, my PIN number on my card is easier. I'm not packing around 50 pounds of the silver. Now, I don't think you have to carry around 50 pounds of silver, but it's never a bad thing to have as far as if you're looking at if you had a single bag of junk silver as an investment or a hedge or just as a way of carrying cash. It's not a bad thing. And we are back to no man is an island. We can't stand alone and the group needs each one. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's a lot tougher to do it on your own than is the doing it on your own is not the biggest solution to that. There's a lot of questions up here. Let me go back up here. I wanted to mark this comment from Sherry because I think it is important. I'm going to get to it when I get back. Okay. Loincloths, kilts, beards. Yes, Terry, I know it's all very enticing. You just made me notice all the useless crap in my house, says Denise. I mean, we're all got a bunch of useless crap in our house. It doesn't really matter. Most of the stuff is not useful or usable for much of anything. So yeah, it happens all the time. Just go out there and do it. You're an easy target if you're carrying 50 pounds of silver. Yeah. I mean, your pockets would be, you would not be moving very fast. Let me tell you that for nothing. Okay. Hey, look at that. We're there. We are there. All right. So we're going to get into this here and start talking about this, the what if component. No depth. Okay. Sorry, that was very random. I was thinking of something, and that was the gist of it. No depth. Ready to go? I threw away my Marie Kondo book last weekend. It did not bring me joy, he said, so he pitched it out. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. So let me tell you why, for a long time, I kind of steered away from talking about a lot of this because, it wasn't that I was embarrassed. I just didn't like being made to feel like, boy, you must be crazy. Because again, this was my upbringing. I mean, my grandmother was, raised in the gold camp in rural Bush, Alaska. I mean, 100 miles from the nearest town. And by town, I mean Fairbanks in the early 1900s. It was literally nothing. And so they had a lot of stuff on the shelf, right? I mean, they had gobs of stuff that they kept around there. And that's just kind of how we were raised. We had food storage when I was a kid. My grandmother, I tell the story, she's 80 years old, living by herself in her condo, and you open up the pantry in her kitchen, and my God, there must have been 3 or 4 months worth of food in the pantry in her kitchen. Why? Well, because that's just how we were raised. But as things went on and progressed, and like I said, I don't know if it was the kind of the survivalist thing in the late 80s, going in, mid to late 80s, or whether it was the Y2K thing where everybody was freaking out about Y2K and people, bought the end of the world supplies or whatever. But it just became this thing. And it so much so that, of course, we had things like Doomsday Preppers and all these other shows on television where I found them to be entertaining for sheer entertainment value, quite honestly, because they always had the most unique. Here's the question that they would always ask. So they'd get the interviewee at the beginning of the show, and they'd be like, "So, John, what are you preparing for?" And John is like, "I'm preparing for global thermonuclear war." Or the gal's like, "Well, I'm preparing for the collapse of the dollar." Or "I'm preparing for some kind of flu epidemic that would race across the world," and they would, but that would never happen. All these different things. And my thought was, why are you preparing for any one certain catastrophic event? I mean, aren't you just kind of preparing for anything? I mean, isn't that really what it's all about? And does it have to be something that is apocalyptic? Does it have to be zombies at your doorstep? Sherry brings up an interesting point in the chat room. She said, "When I had to suddenly retire a few years ago due to an injury, my food storage, which included non-food items, saved me. My home was paid off. I had no car payment as well, so I could live on very little. It's not about preparing for the apocalypse, but for life events, which happens to us all." And to that, I cannot agree more. When I left the radio station in Anchorage, this is 5-6 years ago. I got into a legal battle with the radio station about whether or not I could continue to do radio, because I'm a radio guy, right? It's what I do. It's how I make my living. Anyway, there was a period there of about 6 months where I was not allowed to do my craft. I was not allowed to do anything. And I will tell you that because we had food storage and we had other things that non-food items that we stored as well and everything else, that helped things go a lot further. Being debt-free was also another great thing. I still had my mortgage or the home lease or whatever, but having food storage, some money saved up, being debt-free, not having a car payment, all of those things made for a much easier time than if I was keeping up with the Joneses and had, credit card debt out the wahoo and payments and everything else and nothing but, 2 weeks worth of food on the shelf. I would have been in serious, serious trouble. And so when we talk about what if, maybe it's you lose your job. Maybe what if you lose your job? What if you are injured and you have to take care of yourself and your family? What if, God forbid, one of the two of you, if you're spouses and you're taking care of, what if one of you, suddenly passes away? What are the rest of the family going to do? How are you going to survive on so many different, how are you going to make it? And these are the things that we need to think about. Now, a lot of people's eyes got opened during the pandemic because all of a sudden we saw very clearly that the supply chain was very fragile. Like I said, the system that we have today, especially with the just-in-time delivery system, is very good. It's very efficient, but it is also very, very fragile. I remember growing up, I would do some work with my dad, who was a manufacturer's rep, and I remember going to Foodland in Fairbanks. Now, for those of you who don't live in Fairbanks, Foodland was Cars Foodland, right? But at first, it was just Foodland. It was the grocery store in town. And I remember going into the back of Foodland with my dad and seeing that the storage in the back, it looks like a Costco. I mean, it looks like a big warehouse with racks and racks and racks, right? And if you looked at the footprint of the whole store, maybe a third of the store was the front end with all the shelves and the groceries and the bakery and all that kind of stuff. And maybe half to two-thirds in the back was all storage. I mean, it was a big place. But today, if you go to a grocery store, and like a Fred Meyer's or whatever, if you go in the back, the storage area in the back may account for 10% of the overall square footage of the store, because they literally keep nothing in back stock. They have the trucks arrive twice a week. They unload them. They're stacked on pallets. They get it out on the floor. There's really nothing left there. The surveys have shown that in the event of a crisis, that there is approximately 2 days worth of food at normal consumption rates, 2 to 3 days worth of food at normal consumption rates in any given grocery store. Meaning if they didn't get any more things in, if they didn't get any more shipments in, that within about 3 days, the shelves would be a little bare. And we saw that during the pandemic. Whole shelving units that were no bread, no soups, no, there was many things. They were just empty. The shelves were just empty. And people were shocked, I tell you, that that's what's going on. That is the danger of this just-in-time delivery system that we have here in the United States. So it starts to beg the question of, well, what should you do? Long-term food storage is great. Long-term being, things that last for years and years and years. But I think long-term storage is actually made up of a couple different things, and we're going to get into that here in a second. But I wanted to start off with 10 reasons why you should be prepared. Why should you be prepared? First of all, I will say this, because preparedness brings peace of mind. Preparedness brings, if you have prepared, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, all your surprises will be happy ones. If you have made a plan and you have effectively backed up that plan by, buying what you need and getting things ready, and you've got the plan and you're ready to execute it, your peace of mind is much greater than people who would have to deal with it in the moment of a crisis. But here's 10 reasons why you should be prepared. Number one, because the number one answer that most people throw out there is, well, the government should take care of it. The government, well, we've seen the ineffectiveness of FEMA, right? All you have to remember is those pictures of the people in the wheelchairs outside the Superdome during Hurricane Katrina to understand that FEMA is, the government's quick to talk, quick to ramp up, but the help is slow to come and inefficient when it arrives. Those who are prepared, on the other hand, are able to act quickly and efficiently, take care of their own house, and provide stability, structure, and assistance for their neighbors, their family, and beyond. The second reason why you should be prepared is that any organization or nation or state or community of people with specialized skills can accomplish great things when everything's going smoothly. But if it quickly fall apart, that's when the trouble comes. The prepared mindset of jack of all trades, master of one, makes for a stable organization or nation. That's why you need a stable base for things. You can go back and look at the history of preparedness. All the way even back into biblical times, Joseph and the 7 years of famine, the severe drought and famine, because of his preparations, Egypt survived. So again, another example in history. The founding fathers believed that with the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, they pushed the responsibility from the federal government down to the individual citizens and promoted a self-reliant mentality, a prepared mentality. Siege warfare. Many of the things that happened after Katrina are textbook examples of why siege warfare is so is an example of why things like that are so effective. The normal city has a 3-day food supply. Being prepared means having 6 to 24 months of food. What do you think is more stable in the event of a siege that is due to disaster or war or whatever? If you only focus on food and water supplies, a city, county, region, country with many prepared residents would be much more resilient to being cut off from outside help. Then also, preparedness, number 6, gives you independence from the government. How much leverage does an energy tax have on a family living off the grid? The more self-reliant you are, the less control the government can exert over your life through taxes. Now, I'm not advocating that you should go off the grid and out the thing, but it's, again, why you should talk about that kind of prepared mindset. Criminals fear the aware and the prepared. Being prepared means becoming more aware and prepared than the average person. And this is, again, preparedness, not just in food storage or whatever else, but also in going, if you decide to go forth armed as a private citizen and carry a concealed firearm, you need to make sure that you are prepared and to see more than the average person. It'll show in your walk, your eyes, how you carry yourself. You stop looking like a wounded gazelle and more like a honey badger. Cute and cuddly, but ready to do anything to stop a threat. The other reason I would say to be prepared is that tyrants and people who would, they fear those who are aware and prepared. I mean, look, they want sheep, right? They want sheep. They want people who will go along to get along. They want all that kind of stuff. If you prepare yourself, then you are ready to deal with those folks and you're ready to keep them on your toes. More preparedness equals fewer refugees and a faster recovery rate from any kind of disaster, local, regional, national. The more prepared citizens that are in the area, the less strain on the hospitals, the volunteer organizations, and the government-run refugee centers. And finally, number 10, you're more able to help your fellow man. After a disaster, you're not going to see very many refugees donating their foods and supplies. It's not that they don't want to, but it's because they're in a fight for their lives and may be dehydrated, hungry, and tired and are literally not able to. You may be able to if you are prepared. So those are the top 10 reasons why I believe that you should be prepared. And we're going to talk a little bit in the next segment about maybe some ideas and things that we can take on in future segments of what if segments of the show. And what you may think, what you may want to hear about. I'll start taking some notes here in a minute, and we'll discuss. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
What is that?
Common sense. Regularly heard on American radio. Michael Duke Show. Radio.
Okay. Whew, I finally got to it. Okay. No man is an island. Okay. I think some folks by nature are preppers. Remember the little book about the field mouse prepping all summer while her friend plays? In the end, she shares, "No to all, I will not share." Jeannie says no one actually needs currency. Barter, why it's important to store things that are value to others. I mean, barter can be anything. It could be tools. It could be nails, screws, could be extra lumber, it could be food. You could barter food. You could barter liquor. Liquor is another great thing that many people will want and would be willing to trade for. The only thing I wouldn't trade is bullets. I would not trade bullets or guns. That's the only things that I would not trade because I just don't like the idea of those being used against somebody else. That's not a thing you need to do. My mom made everything homemade. Do you think the dollar is strong? No, I don't think the dollar is strong. We can't legally trade fish for firewood. State says it's illegal. But you can go get chunks of floating glacier and sell it for a profit. Okay. COVID. Pandemic preppers now have 3 lifetimes of toilet paper in storage. Preppers. I got rags for that. I got yellow pages for that. Hoarding disposable items is not prepping. Although I will say that if you are planning on doing some preparedness and prepping, then I would say that disposable feminine hygiene products probably up there on the list, just for convenience sake. Because if you got running water, great. If you don't have running water, great. Those are all good, but that would be on my list. Not a woman, nor do I use hygiene products like that, but I would want it for people in my house. Let's see, going here. You have to rotate your stock. Okay. Lots of holes in the shelves. Fred Meyer Wasilla says, Terry, lots of holes on the shelves just yesterday. Yeah, remember the toilet paper run? Yeah. I mean, I always have a couple cases of toilet paper at the house just because. I figure 2 is 1 and 1 is none. If I'm going to buy 1, I buy 2. And that way I always have at least 1 full one on the shelf at any given time. And that's not going to last you forever, right? But maybe, what was this? Read up on FEMA's response policies. If you think they would intentionally send help to AK, you're in for a surprise. You'll have a soldier standing on your doorstep eventually. You mean a soldier for me to take care of, or for a soldier who's trying to come in here and do that kind of stuff? Criminals use natural disasters as open season on the general public, says Sean. Yeah, I mean, we saw that especially during Hurricane Katrina, right? I mean, that's exactly it. Liquor, says Harold. Yes, liquor is a trade good. I don't drink much myself, but I do have liquor that I occasionally use. And would I be willing to barter it? Sure. If that's the case, I'd be definitely willing to barter it. We changed from using our PFD to lay in winter supply of grub orders. Still, a lot of homes had pantry rooms that got repurposed as a storage or home office. Yeah, we changed from using a PFD to lay in a winter supply to doing other things with it. I think, if you've got a full thing, then there you go. Batteries, original preppers, barter. Oh, batteries also, yes. Batteries, propane cylinders. Those are all great things to barter if you have them in great supply. And yeah, you could do it here. Great radio. Here we're talking about toilet paper. Well, I'm just saying. Okay, tobacco for barter. Well, I suppose so. Better dig an outhouse hole, downsize your house to cabin size, the list goes on. I mean, we're all hoping that many kind of events or crises would be very short term, usually, hopefully 90 days. That would be the hope, is that most of those things would be fixed in 90 days, but you don't know. You just don't know. All right, a case of Folgers. Don't forget the Folgers. Hey, you could, in a pinch, I would even drink Folgers in a pinch. If it was the end of the world and I wanted a cup of coffee, I would drink Folgers in a pinch if I had to. But it would have to be close to being the end of the world at that point. I'm just saying, it would have to be close to being the end of the world. Okay, one final segment of today. And we're talking about what if, and I just kind of gave you the rundown on, 10 reasons why you should be prepared. And it doesn't have to be a natural disaster or the zombie apocalypse or anything else. It could be just a life thing. It could be like Sherry was talking about, having to suddenly retire or quit your job, having an injury, having somebody die, in your household where they were an income earner and all of a sudden you're in a stressful situation. Those are all important things. But basically, preparedness comes down to, it comes down to a few things, right? What do you need? What do you need to survive? Well, you need shelter, you need food, and you need heat. Those are pretty much the three things, and food includes food and water, right? So we're saying that. But food and water, heat, and shelter. I will say this, and I think Sherry touches on it in her comment earlier, that the one thing that a lot of people don't think about is being debt-free. Debt-free, in my opinion, lack of debt, the elimination of debt, should be one of your primary motivators in being prepared for any situation. Because nothing would be worse, especially if you're dealing in some kind of global financial crisis or something else going on, and you've lost your job, or it's a pandemic and you've been shut off at home and you can't work, you can't make an income. Nothing is worse than the potential for your car to be repossessed, or for you to not be able to make payments on something, or it's just a tremendous amount of stress. Living within your means and having no debt should be probably near the top of your priority when it comes to those kind of things, because that would eliminate a lot of the stress right off the top. So food, shelter, and heat. Those are, the three things that you want to talk about. Shelter, I know every post-apocalyptic fictional story or whatever has people immediately leaving where they are and trying to go bugging out, right? That's the whole bugging out to somewhere else. I would say most of the times you're probably better off hunkering down and sheltering in place because you've got everything there. And how are you going to take what you've got with you in the event of some kind of emergency? So you're better off planning on pretty much staying where you are, depending on where you are. I mean, if you're in an apartment in a city, that might be a whole different thing compared to, and depending on what the crisis is. If it's a personal crisis, well, nothing changes. If it's a natural disaster, then that could, have other problems. And if it's something, nastier or deeper, then you'd have to make that decision you'd have to make that decision at the time. So, shelter, kind of taken care of. Heat, I mean, do you have the ability to make heat? Do you have the ability to heat your home outside of, like I live here, it's all natural gas. Do I have a secondary heat source? In my case, I don't, which is a bit of a bummer because I don't own the house that I live in right now. But I did in Fairbanks. I had a secondary heat source that I installed in my house so that I could keep my house warm in the event that the power went out. And I had a good stockpile and supply of wood and coal that I could use to keep my place warm, and in the event of something like that going on. So always good. Have a generator so that you can run some simple appliances or things like that that you may need, or that you may need to be able to use, whether it's your furnace. Can you run your furnace on it, or a fridge or a freezer, or et cetera, et cetera? Those are all good choices when it comes to getting prepared. But of course, the biggest one is the food. The food is the important one, because we can go, what's the rule of three? We can go 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 minutes without air, kind of thing. The food and the water is the important part. And so let's talk for just a second about that. And there are other aspects of preparedness that we could talk about, and whether that's off the grid electrical generation. You want to talk about something like that, where you want to put some kind of off grid system at your house to help you in the event. You have a switch on the outside of your house that flips you from the mains to your backup, whether it's solar and batteries or generators or whatever else. I mean, maybe we should bring somebody on to talk about that. There are plenty of outfits in the state of Alaska who probably would love to come on the program and discuss it with us. We'd be more than willing to talk about that. Communications. How are you going to stay in communications if there's some kind of disaster where, say, the cell phone network gets down? How many of you actually have an old phone in your house? Do you actually have a line? I don't have a landline in my house. So what do you do then? Do you use communications? Do you use shortwave radio? Do you use ham radio? Do you use CBs? If that's the case, if it's for a longer period of time, how do you stay in communication? Maybe we need to have somebody who's a communication person come on the line and talk with us about this. But that's all ancillary stuff to the thing that is most important, which is to feed your gullet, right? Because they're feeding your face is the thing that keeps you alive. So when I talk to food storage classes, and we'll get into this more in the next show when we do this again, but I will just kind of leave you with this. When I taught food storage, I broke it down into 3 different categories. You had, for me personally, this is and your mileage may vary. You may have a whole different method. If you've been doing this for a long time, you may have a whole different method. But you do you. I'm just telling you what I taught in my courses and what I have lived by for all these years. Food storage can be broken down into 3 different types of food storage. The one that most people think about is what we would consider to be long-term bulk food storage. I mean, things like rice, sugar, flour, wheat, salt, things that you put in barrels, drums, buckets, and you seal for a long, long time. Things that you don't open on an ongoing basis, but that you have available and are stable for years and years and years. That's good to have, but it's not something that you are used to or can get, can use every day in your day-to-day life or anything like that. The second thing is the freeze-dried. Now, we've all seen these, right? This is the Patriot meals, the Mountain House, MREs. Those are all things that that fall under that kind of freeze-dried category. And then there are another kind of freeze-dried components where maybe you just get something from a company like Thrive or whatever, where they are components that you can use and fix in your meals every day. The emergency stuff, the Patriots, the Mountain House, the MREs, those are all good in a short term if you need it in an emergency, but it's not something you want to eat every day. My favorite meal from Mountain House is the beef stroganoff. That thing has 2,300 milligrams of salt in that. You could not eat that every day for 3 months without your heart exploding. You know what I mean? It's just not something. So you have to, it's good for the short term, but not for the long term. And then the biggest component of food storage, well, the biggest and the ones that you'll use most often is your canned food, your packaged food, things that you already eat now, just having more on it. Just having more of it to be able to use. So I think we're going to have to get down into this whole food thing and talk more about it. We ran out of time for today. That's a bummer. All right. Well, we'll bring this up on the next What If Wednesday, maybe a couple weeks from now. We'll get some guests as well. We got to go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Damn, that end of that hour just snuck right up on me. Snuck right up on me. Okay. Oh, all right. No debt. GD says, no debt, property taxes. Well, I mean, is that the sunny side of the zombie apocalypse? Is you don't have to worry about property taxes anymore? I mean, at that point, you really don't have to worry about any debt at that point because everybody's getting their face eaten, right? Oh, man. All right. 6 cell phones, I think, iPads all over, mesh net. How are you going to communicate if the internet goes down, right? How are you going to communicate if there's no power? How are you going to communicate if? I think it's interesting. We need to talk about that. Bacon supply should be on point. Canned bacon's not too bad. Yeah. Canned bacon, not too bad. All right. Well, we'll continue this discussion sometime in the future. And maybe we'll break it down a little bit easier for people to understand. We got to go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
Goodbye.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.